This video is the first in a multi-part series of how to create a website from scratch using WebPlus X6. Now I'll take you through the very basics right up until the more complex elements that you can put into your website, and hopefully we'll do that through the first 10 videos, and then beyond that we'll extend what you can do with the WebPlus to really make your website stand out. So I'll go through the way that I normally create websites. This may not be the best practice, but this is just what I do. Okay, so I've loaded up WebPlus X6 and I'm just going to click Start New Site. Just going to give it any name. I don't know the site URL and I'm not going to be publishing this yet, so I'll just click Next. For the default page width, I actually want custom and I want 980 pixels. I think that's the widest that you can have whilst making sure that you appear on the most number of monitors and devices. For page height, I'm going to go with 1400. I'm just going to set a standard 4 pages. We will increase those later on, so we can do that. That's not a problem. Just click Next. I don't have a color scheme yet, so I'm just going to click Next. I don't want to do this yet either, add a navigation bar. So again, Next. I don't want to choose assets. Next. I do want to save my site. I'm just going to go to my desktop and I've got a folder where I will be storing incremental versions of the website that we make. So every time I do a lot of changes, I'm going to want to make a copy and store it in this folder. So I'm just going to leave it as WebPlus X6 tutorial site. Click Save and click Finish. And the first thing I'm going to do is actually set my scheme colors. So I'm going to go to Color Scheme Designer. Now at this stage I'm only going to set a few of the colors. So the scheme color 1 I want to be white, so that's fine. The second one, which I'm going to use for my text, I don't want it to be black, I want it to be slightly lighter than that. So I'm just going to choose more colors. I'm going to put in 30, 30, 30. I don't know if you can see that, but that's just slightly lighter than black. That's okay. And then for scheme color 3, which is going to be my main color, I'm going to put in a blue, and the color I've got is 0.6699. So that's a nice light blue, and I've chosen this mainly because it shows up well in videos as well. And then click OK, and the next one I want to change is actually from the bottom up. So scheme color 12 I normally assign to the background color, which will be so that's a nice light, very light, almost white type of grey. Click OK, and 11 will be the on-page color, and I want that to be white. I will explain how all these colors are used in a moment. And then the next one I want is going to be the hyperlink color, which I want to be blue, the same as scheme color 3. But rather than using scheme color 3, I want it separately, so that if I do want to change the two separately, I can do that. So I'm just dragging scheme color 3 to scheme color 9, and then scheme color 10 will be the hover on the hyperlink, which I'm going to change to a slate gray, given that our text is normally almost black. I'm just going to give that a color of 82, which is a nice gray. So I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to click OK, and that's set the colors that I'm going to start off with. I will add more and I will change them later on, but for now that's fine. So the next place I'm going to go to is Edit, Site Properties, and I'm going to start with the background, and I'm going to make the on-page color 11, which if you remember is white, and the background color is going to be scheme color 12, which is the lighter gray. Now also, I don't want my website to be flush at the top against the browser and the same at the bottom, so I'm going to actually put in a margin of 10 pixels at the top and the bottom. Okay, and you can see it's just moved at the top and at the bottom there. And then the next thing I'm going to go to is hyperlinks, and I'm going to choose for hyperlink scheme color 9, which is our blue, And for the followed, active and rollover hyperlinks, I'm going to choose scheme color 10, which is already selected, so that's fine. Then I'm going to go to HTML header. I'm going to put in the author name. And I'm just going to put in a copyright symbol. And then just the name again. Now here you may or may not want to include the software name and version in your code that anyone can look at if they view the source code of your website. But I recommend that if you're just starting out or if you're a beginner that you just leave that checked. If you're advanced or you design websites for a living, you might want to uncheck that, entirely up to you. The next thing I'm going to do is go to margins. And I'm just going to add some columns that will help me, some columns and some layout guides that will just help me design my site. What I want is 3 columns, and I want a 20 pixel spacing between each of them. And I just press OK. So as you can see, I've now got my page. I've got the 3 columns with a 20 pixel spacing in between. One thing I do like to see when I'm designing sites is the actual ruler. I'm just going to go to View and click on Rulers so that you can see the ruler as well. Now I'm just going to preview the website. Now normally when I preview the site, I will choose at least 2 browsers, and that will be Internet Explorer and Firefox. So if you go to File, Preview Site, you should have more than one browser. If you don't, then you need to go to Google and just type in something like Firefox and download and install Firefox or Safari or Google Chrome. If you've already installed them, then you can go to Browser Preview List, click Auto Detect, and it will ask you, do you want to clear your current browser list? Are you sure? Yes. And then it will pick up all the browsers on your system. I'm just going to click OK. I'm just going to press Alt-1 to preview the page. And as you can see, we've got a light grey background with a 10 pixel margin at the top. We've got our on-page color to be white. And if we scroll down, again, we've got a 10 pixel margin at the bottom as well. So that's a good place to start. And we'll just add 1 or 2 things. So if we look at the right hand side and in the site panel, you'll notice that at the moment we've got our 4 pages, and the home page has this little eye icon, which means that page is currently selected, and everything we do on the page will only apply to the home page. To start with, we actually want to change a master page, which if you click master pages, you'll see we've got master page A, and this is the underlining page that can contain text, images, graphics, and that will then appear on all of these other pages as long as they're linked to master page A. And you can see they are, because they've got this little A. And we can create several master pages, all with something slightly different for each of these other pages. But for now, we just want to look at master page A and work on that, so we'll just double click that. I'm just going to close it so that I've got more space to work with. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to add is just 3 rectangles that will help define our website. So I'm just going to go to the quick shape, quick rectangle, and I'm just going to drag out a rectangle here. Now normally when I'm using the quick shapes, in the bottom right I always have the transform tool on, and that will tell you sort of the exact coordinates of where that shape is, how wide it is, and how high it is. Okay, so for this one I don't want it to have a line. At the moment you can see it's got a line around it. So I'm just going to go to line and choose 0. And I want it to start at 0. So I want it to start exactly in the top left. I'm just going to change that to 0 and that to 0 as well. And I want this to be 980, which is the entire width of the page. Now, if you can see this lock aspect ratio, almost like 2 chains, they're on at the moment. So when I change that, the height will change as well. And I don't want that to happen. I want to be able to change it separately. I'm just going to click on that to break that link. I'm just going to put in 980. And for the height, I'm just going to put in 400. Okay. And for the color, I actually want to use scheme color 3. And what I want is that at the bottom as well. So I'm just going to grab that and I'm going to hold down Control and I'm going to drag down, and that creates a duplicate. It's going to go all the way to the bottom. And I want this to just be 30 pixels high. So I want it to be from the bottom and up 30 pixels. So in the transform tool, I will set the anchor to be the bottom and then the height to be 30. Okay. Now I want one more, and that's just going to be above this one. So again, I'm going to hold down Control and I'm just going to move it up. And as I get above that last one, it will just automatically lock in place. And I want that height to be 200. So again, I'm just going to put in 200. Okay, so we've now got 3 rectangles, and I just want to change the color a little bit. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click this top rectangle, go to Format, go to Fill. I don't want it to be exactly color scheme 3, I want it to be just slightly different, and I want it to have a gradient. So what I'm going to do is change the type from solid to gradient. I'm going to choose the top to bottom gradient, and then edit, and I only want the first node and the last node. I'm just going to click on this one and click delete, click on this one and click delete. For the first one, I want it to be scheme color 3 blue. The last one, I'm also going to choose scheme color 3 blue, but I'm going to change the shade tint to +40 so it's much lighter. Now when you change the scheme colors at any point, the tint will actually allow that color to change as well. So if you change it to green, you'll have that one will be green, that one will be a lighter green as well. I'm just going to click OK and OK. For this one, I also want to change that color as well. So right click, Format, Fill, and I'm going to change it. I don't want a gradient, I'm just going to give it a tint of 30, just to make it a little bit lighter. And that's pretty much our basic setup for our master page. So what I'm just going to do is preview that. And as you can see, we've got our nice rectangle header area at the top, followed by a white area in the middle, followed by 2 separate rectangles, one on top of the other. So I'm just going to close that. And since we've done this on master page A and all of these pages are linked to that, you can see that whichever one we click on, it will still continue to show that almost like base layer, and everything we do to these pages now will appear just specifically on those pages. And that's all for this tutorial, so join me in a couple of days for the next one, and we'll continue building up our website.